The Galactic Council had seen many species rise and fall across the millennia. They had witnessed civilizations that could bend reality itself, races that lived for thousands of years, and empires that spanned entire star clusters. But nothing had prepared them for humanity's latest representative, a simple mining engineer named Jackson Cole, who arrived at the Council's grand station with a dragon hatchling perched on his shoulder. Orla, the Council's chief diplomatic observer, watched from her elevated platform as the human entered the vast crystalline chamber. She was a Velkari, a species known for their 3 sets of eyes that could perceive across multiple spectrums, and their reputation for reading the true intentions of any being. Her silver skin shimmered under the station's artificial lights as she studied the peculiar pair below. The dragon, an actual dragon from the recently discovered world of Paraxis Prime, was no larger than a house cat. Its scales gleamed like molten copper, and small wisps of smoke occasionally escaped from its nostrils. The creature should have been terrified, separated from its kind and thrust into an alien environment. Instead, it nuzzled against Jackson's neck, making soft chirping sounds that echoed through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "This is irregular," announced Ambassador Thexlon, a towering insectoid whose mandibles clicked with disapproval. Humans were summoned to explain their unauthorized contact with a pre-spaceflight species, not to bring pets to official proceedings. Jackson stepped forward, his worn work boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. He was unremarkable by human standards: average height, weathered face, calloused hands. His brown hair was streaked with premature gray, and his blue eyes held the kind of weariness that came from years of hard labor. Yet he moved with a quiet confidence that made Orla lean forward with interest. "With respect, Ambassador," Jackson said, his voice carrying clearly despite not being raised, "Ember isn't a pet. She's the reason we're all here." The small dragon Ember, apparently, raised her wedge-shaped head and released a small puff of flame that somehow didn't burn Jackson's collar. Several council members shifted nervously. Dragons from Paraxis Prime were known to grow to the size of warships, with fire hot enough to melt through starship hulls. An adult dragon was classified as a planetary-level threat. Orla accessed her neural interface, pulling up the incident report that had triggered this emergency session. 3 standard months ago, Jackson's mining survey team had discovered Paraxis Prime, a world in its equivalent of Earth's medieval period. The dragons ruled the skies, while various humanoid species struggled for survival below. First contact protocols strictly forbade interaction, but Jackson had apparently violated them spectacularly. "Explain yourself, human," Orla commanded, her voice resonating with harmonics that encouraged honesty. It was a Velkari gift that had served her well in countless negotiations. Jackson stroked Ember's head gently, and the dragon's eyes, brilliant gold with vertical slits, half-closed in contentment. "We were conducting mineral surveys in the Paraxis system's asteroid belt when we detected a distress beacon. It was crude, barely functional, but it was there. When we investigated, we found an escape pod, if you could call it that, more like a reinforced egg." He paused, and Orla noticed his jaw tighten with remembered emotion. Inside was Ember. She was dying. Her life support was failing, her temperature dropping. The pod's logs showed she'd been jettisoned during some kind of conflict on the planet below. Someone had tried to save her, but the pod was damaged. "And you violated the Prime Directive by intervening," Thexlon interjected harshly. "I violated protocol by saving a child," Jackson corrected, and there was steel in his voice now. "Because that's what she is, a child, alone and afraid and dying in the cold of space." Orla watched as Jackson's hand continued its gentle rhythm along Ember's spine. The dragon had fallen asleep, her small chest rising and falling peacefully. It was such a simple gesture, yet it spoke volumes. The Velkari could see the bond between them, not ownership, not domination, but genuine affection. "We brought her aboard," Jackson continued. Our ship's doctor, well, she's technically a veterinarian, but Dr. Shah is brilliant. She stabilized Ember, figured out her nutritional needs, kept her warm. And he smiled softly, I stayed with her. She was scared. She kept crying out in the dark, these heartbreaking sounds. So I stayed, talked to her, let her know she wasn't alone. How touching, Ambassador Thexlon said with clear sarcasm. And when the Paraxis dragons discover that you've kidnapped one of their young, when they come seeking vengeance with fire and fury. They already know, Orla said quietly, her research complete. All eyes turned to her. The human ship transmitted a message to Paraxis Prime 6 weeks ago, including full documentation of the rescue and Ember's current health status. Jackson nodded. We weren't trying to hide anything. Ember deserved to go home if that's what her people wanted. We just wanted them to know she was safe first. The chamber's atmosphere shifted. This was unprecedented. The Council had examples of species stealing resources, kidnapping specimens, exploiting per-contact civilizations, but voluntary transparency, that was rare enough to be remarkable. And their response, Orla asked, though she already knew. She wanted the Council to hear it from Jackson. They sent an envoy, a full-grown dragon named Paraxis, Ember's grandmother as it turns out. She arrived 2 weeks ago at our ship. Jackson's expression softened with the memory. I was terrified. Paraxis is massive. She could have incinerated our entire vessel without breaking a sweat, but she just wanted to see Ember. He reached up, gently touching the sleeping dragon's wing. Paraxis told us that Ember was caught in a war between dragon clans. Her parents hid her in the escape pod to save her life, but they were killed before they could retrieve her. Paraxis had been searching for months, following every rumor, every possible lead. She'd given up hope. Orla felt something she rarely experienced in these proceedings, genuine emotion. Her 3 sets of eyes filmed with moisture as Jackson continued. Paraxis thanked us. She actually thanked us for saving her granddaughter. And then she asked if we would continue caring for Ember until she was old enough to return home safely. The war isn't over, and Ember's still too young to defend herself. This is a trick, Thexlon insisted. Humans are manipulating the situation for political gain, establishing illegal contact to exploit Paraxis Prime's resources. Jackson's laugh was bitter. Political gain. Ambassador, I'm a mining engineer from a colony world you've probably never heard of. I make barely enough credits to send home to my daughter. I don't want political gain. I just wanted to help a scared kid. Ember stirred at his raised voice, making a small questioning sound. Immediately, Jackson's tone gentled. SHH, it's okay, little flame. Go back to sleep. The dragon settled, reassured. That moment changed everything for Orla. She had served the Galactic Council for 2 centuries, evaluating species for admission, mediating conflicts, assessing civilization's readiness for the greater community. She had developed a finely tuned sense for deception, manipulation, and hidden agendas. What she saw in Jackson Cole was none of those things. She saw simple, uncommon decency. The Velkari delegation moves to dismiss all charges against Jackson Cole and his crew, Orla announced, her voice carrying the full weight of her authority. Furthermore, we propose formal recognition of humanity's intervention as an act of humanitarian rescue, not a violation of contact protocols. The chamber erupted in debate. Species argued across linguistic barriers, translation systems struggling to keep pace. But Orla kept her eyes on Jackson, who simply stood there, protecting the small creature that trusted him completely. Hours later, after the vote had concluded in humanity's favor, Orla approached Jackson in one of the station's observation decks. He stood before a massive viewport, Ember now awake and playfully chasing holographic projections he generated from his wrist computer. You've created quite a stir, Orla said, settling beside him. Jackson shrugged. I just did what anyone should do. But they don't, Orla replied. That's the point. In all my years of service, I've seen species do incredible things, terraform worlds, cure incurable diseases, create art that transcends language. But simple kindness without expectation of reward, that's remarkably rare. She watched Ember successfully capture a holographic butterfly, her triumphant squeak making them both smile. The dragons of Paraxis Prime will remember this. When they eventually reach the stars, they'll remember that the first spacefaring species they met showed them kindness. You've potentially shaped the course of an entire civilization's development. I just wanted to help a kid, Jackson repeated quietly. Exactly, Orla said. And that, Jackson Cole, is why the galaxy is paying attention. Humanity has been on the Council's watch list for years, aggressive, unpredictable, dangerously innovative. But also this, capable of risking everything for a stranger simply because it's right. Ember flew over, landing on Jackson's shoulder with practiced ease. She nuzzled his cheek, and he absently stroked her scales, lost in thought. What happens now? He asked. Orla's multiple eyes glimmered with something like hope. Now humanity gets a seat at the table, not because you've conquered worlds or mastered incredible technology, but because you've demonstrated something more valuable, the wisdom to know that power means nothing without compassion. She reached out, gently touching Ember's tiny head with one long finger. The dragon regarded her curiously, then huffed a small, harmless flame, a greeting Orla realized. An acceptance. The galaxy is vast and often cruel, Orla continued. But perhaps it's been waiting for someone to remind us that kindness still matters. Thank you, Jackson Cole. Thank you for treating one small life as if it were the most important thing in the universe. Jackson looked down at Ember, who chirped happily, utterly content. She is, he said simply. Every life is. And in that moment, with a human, a dragon, and a Velkari diplomat standing together against the stars, the future shifted. The Galactic Council would remember this day, the day humanity proved itself worthy not through strength, but through the simple act of protecting someone who needed help. The day one man treated a dragon hatchling kindly, and the entire galaxy learned to see humans differently.